Well, we've covered the legislative special session here in Texas and what's next after Democrats left the state to protest the GOP-led voting legislation. Governor Abbott joins me live now from Austin. Governor, thanks for being here. I'd like to start with this. We saw the Democrats walk out back in May at the end of the regular session. Was this walkout something you or House leadership saw coming?
Well, listen, we thought that they would be coming back, which they did actually return to the Capitol and begin this special session. And we know that they're going to be coming back for this reason, and that is funding for the entire legislative branch of government has been vetoed. There is no money for the legislative branch. The only way they can fund that is they have to show up, do their job, vote on legislation, and they can provide that funding. I put that funding for the legislature onto the special session call. However, if the Democrats fail and refuse to show up, they themselves will be the ones who are responsible for defunding the legislature. But it's more than that. There were bills passed out of the Texas Senate today and yesterday, including by your very own Senator Brian Hughes, that lower property taxes, that provide additional funding for our teachers, that provide funding for law enforcement to make our community safer. The state of Texas is going to be far worse off simply because the Democrats took their bat and they went home. They're refusing to play because they were behind, and they're making the state and East Texas a worse place just because the Democrats don't want to show up and do their job.
So a follow-up to that, what does the walkout mean for the future of those bills, things like House Bill 3 and other Republican-led bills in the House? Is it a situation where there's a special session over and over again until those get accomplished?
That's exactly right. So the governor has the authority to call special sessions anytime and all the time. And what will happen is I will be, and a special election, by the way, lasts only 30 days. And so after the expiration of 30 days, I will call another special session. If they refuse to show up, I will call another special session after 30 more days. And that process will continue all the way till Election Day. I can tell you this much based upon past history. If the Democrats continue to refuse to show up and do the job that voters elected them to do, they likely will be losing their job next election because voters don't appreciate Democrats not showing up to work. If your viewers refuse to show up to work, they wouldn't get their paycheck. They would lose their job. The same thing will happen to these Democrats who are not showing up doing their job.
Now, some of those Democrats have said they've worked to compromise with Republicans on the bill. What's your response to that? I mean, is there a place where Republicans could meet Democrats in the middle, or are we past that at this point now?
So, very importantly, before the Democrats left, compromises actually were made. And so the time for further compromises is now over, especially with the way that the Democrats have acted. The way the Democrats have acted and the things they have said, which are filled with nothing but lies, are ways in which it means there will be no further compromise. We will just continue to be calling them back into special session until they vote. Listen, here's the way that it works. One thing that Democrats said after the presidential election is that elections have consequences, and those who win elections, they get bills passed their way. The same thing applies in the state of Texas. Democrats don't get their way simply because the elections did not turn out their way. They have to go to the Capitol, cast their votes, make their arguments, but it's unacceptable for them just to not show up at all. I will tell you this, one thing that we're looking into, and that is we will measure the time that they are going to be out of the state, and there will come a point in time when they have effectively vacated their office. If that happens, I may call for an official vacation of their office, seeking to fill it with somebody else.
Governor Greg Abbott from Austin. Governor, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.